Hello, this is Lee, and in this video we're going to be talking about how to install your TD Ameritrade API credit screener. Now, as you recall in a previous video, I showed you a credit screener that allowed you to search for iron condors and bear put spreads and bullish call spreads and those types of things, and it had all kinds of features. This video doesn't show you anything about that, but it shows you how to install it. So this is very difficult to install actually. It's not a think script where you can just copy and paste it into your Thinkorswim application, but instead it's a program. It's a PHP program that runs on a web server. So that means that you have to take this code that I'm providing to you and copy and paste it and put it on your web server. Now, it can be pretty much any web server, but it has to have a SSL certificate. And what's important about that is that makes the traffic between your computer and the TD Ameritrade API encrypted. So that way people can't sniff the data packets as they're going over the internet, and it's nice and secure. You can do it on any server. It can be a server that you happen to run your business on and shove this over on the side page, or you can do it on your Windows 10 machine or your Mac. In this video, I'm going to show you in great detail how to do it on your Windows 10 machine. If you're doing it on a Mac or something else, and Linux, I don't really know how to do that, and I suggest that you do a Google search and figure out how to do that yourself. The steps are to create an API developer account, and then you create an API application, and then you copy over your files and you update your client ID. And I'm going to show you step by step exactly how to do all of those things. But as a first step, what we're going to do is set up your Windows 10 machine as a web server, and that involves installing IIS, installing PHP, installing and setting up your SSL, and copying over the files. And I know that's a technical jargon and you're probably not a techie and you might not even know what any of those words mean, but I'm going to do it in the video and you can follow along step by step as I go, and hopefully you can just click the same buttons I'm clicking and get it done. And if not, you can always bring in somebody that is more of a techie and they can help you get this done. Now, if you're using a web server that's already set up, really it's just a matter of copying and pasting the files as long as it has a SSL certificate. Okay, here goes. The first step is to open up your File Explorer over here, go to your C drive, and let's make a new folder. So I right click right here and hit New Folder. And when I do that, it lets me name it. I'll call it Scanner. And here is my scanner folder, C/scanner, doesn't matter really. I gave you a zip file that you can open up. Let's crack open this zip file and see what's in it. Here we go. These are all of the PHP files that you need to run the software. You just copy and paste them into your scanner folder. Remember where you put these. We're going to come back to those later. Okay, here we are on the internet. I can tell you that I had absolutely no idea how to set up a Windows server on my machine. I knew it could be done. I knew it was supposed to be pretty easy, but I didn't know how to do it. I had set this up on my business computer. I just threw it up there and called it done because I already had a web server and it already had an SSL certificate, so I didn't have to go through this process. So to show you how to do it, I had to figure it out myself. So I started off in Google. I searched for Windows 10 IIS PHP, and I found some pretty cool web pages. Here's one by Help Desk Geek, and it shows you the exact process of how to set up a server on your Windows 10 machine. I didn't use this particular one actually. I like this one better. It's on Stackify and it has the exact process. So we're going to actually walk through this process and follow the steps here. You can see the address of the page on your computer, so you can copy and paste it or type it in, whatever. Anyway, the article shows you what is PHP and why do you care, what is IIS and why do you care, and reasons to run it, and so forth. What you need to know is that the software was written in PHP to run on a web server, so if you want to host it from your Windows 10 machine, this is how you do it. I searched for Windows 10, but if you're running a Mac, you can do the same search and find some other files on how to do this exact same process on a Mac, on Linux, or whatever. Anyway, what it talks about here is turn Windows features on and off. So I'm going to go to the bottom left over here where it says type here to search and type that in. If your computer doesn't have it, you can just click the start bar and start typing, and as soon as you do, you'll type in the word turn, and it says turn Windows features on and off. And I get a window that looks very similar to the one that's in the web page over here. So I'm going to search for the same feature. It wants me to search for Internet Information Services. So here we go, Internet Information Services. I turn on that on. It wants me to expand it out, World Wide Web, application features, and it wants me to put a checkbox in this CGI. Okay, here we go, and okay. It's installing those features. Let's wait. Okay, it looks like it's all done, so I'll hit close, and we are moving on. Okay, there's a few extra steps that apply if you're using the server manager, which I'm not. If we're using Windows Server, I'm not using Windows Server, so these don't apply. So it's telling me that I should have something at localhost that looks just like this. So let's type it in. Localhost. Sure enough, there it is, just like they said. I now have a Windows Server on my machine, and you can get to it from localhost. I can tell you that it also has an IP address, 127.0.0.1. Take that off, and it's the exact same thing as localhost. Perfect. So we'll close that for now. Okay, so next is the CGI stuff. You can read all about it if you'd like to, but it talks about installing PHP on your IIS using WebPI. So right here it says WebPlatformInstaller. So I'm going to click that link. It gives me WebPlatformInstaller. I'm going to hit install. If it looks like I've already done this before, it's because I have. I did it like 4 times today trying to get it right so I can show you. We downloaded it. I'm going to run it. Here we go. We're executing it. I accept the license agreement, which has, of course, the human centipede clause. Finish and done. Okay, so that step is complete. Moving on down, it says, what did I just do? I installed the Web Platform Installer. So what I'm going to do is go down to Start. I'm going to type in Web Platform Installer. Here we go. And it's going to open up a window, and it looks kind of like that window on the left. But I'm going to come over here and type in PHP 7. See what comes up. Here's PHP 7.4 by x86. I actually have a 64-bit machine, so I don't want to install the x86 one. So somewhere down here, here's I'm scrolling down. Here it is. PHP 7.4.1 for a 64-bit machine. I happen to know that that's the latest one. This actually works on all of the different versions of PHP, so that doesn't matter too much. But I understand 7.4 is a lot faster than some of the previous versions, so I just want to make sure that I have that. So, but it's important to know that if you have a 64-bit machine, that you have to do the 64-bit. So I clicked Add, I'll hit Install. It's asking me to accept some things, and I'll hit Accept, and it's installing. Let's see, it complained that something didn't work. The Windows cache extension didn't work, and the PHP Manager for IIS didn't work, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to hit exit, and that's done. Alright, so next it talks about installing PHP manually. I'm going to skip over that because I don't want to do it manually. Let's see. We talk about configuring PHP on IIS, and it wants you to install the PHP Manager. So I'm going to click on this guy right here. I'm going to download this extension. Here it is, save file. Up on the top right, I'll click that, and PHP Manager, installing, next, I agree, next, and continue. Okay, PHP Manager is installed, so I will close that window. Moving on down. Okay, let's see. That's more or less it. So now we can crack this open. We've installed everything we need to install. So I'm going to go to the bottom left corner again. I'm going to type in IIS. It opens up Internet Information Services. Let's minimize that. Here we go. We have a default website, and this is my machine. So we can go over to Fast CGI settings and take a look. We can see that PHP 7.4 is installed, so that's good. We can go to handle mappings and take a look. Here's PHP Fast CGI, and it points to where it installed my PHP 7.4, so that's good. We're not really doing anything. I'm just checking a couple settings. We can look at default documents, and I can see hey, look at that. The PHP is right here, so that's good. We got our PHP Manager. Oh, so this is important. You actually have to. Well, let me make sure I showed you exactly what to do. You type in IIS. You get into your Information Manager. You can click on PHP Manager. It's an icon that looks just like this one, and hit View Recommendations, and it's saying it wants me to do a couple things. So I'm going to accept those changes, and good. Now by default, you see it says enable or disable extensions. It's really important that curl's on the list, so I'm happy to see that it's there. You probably didn't have to do anything in here. You just open it up and see it. But we're going to go to our sites, and we're going to go to our default website, and we are going to right click on that and hit edit bindings, and we're going to add a new binding, and the type of binding we're going to add is HTTPS. That's what gives us our secure encrypted site, and we're going to put it on port 8080. That's very important. We're going to select localhost, hit select. Fine, we won't hit select. We're going to select localhost, and we're going to hit OK. So now we've just created an HTTPS encrypted site on our computer. I'm going to hit close, and we're good to go with that. Now also, I want to change the default location of the site. We want to point this site to the place that we stored those files on our computer. We called it C Screener. Okay, so I'm going to right click on the default site. I'm going to go over here to where it says Manage Website, down to Advanced Settings. I see here where it says Physical Path. I'm going to double click on that and change it to C:/scanner. OK. And just for giggles, I'm going to come over here on the right hand side and hit Restart. OK, so now I should have a web page. Let's see if I can find it. Local host. Okay, well that's something. Anyway, moving on. Because I typed in localhost, and because we copied over our files into this folder, we're seeing the index page for the scanner. So that's good. That's exactly what it was supposed to look like, and I'm very happy to see those results. Okay, so we're all done setting up the the web server on your Windows 10 machine. So we're going to move on to the next step, which is to set up your TD Ameritrade developer account. And you can see right here it's https developer.tdameritrade.com, and on this web page you can see all kinds of details about how the API works and so forth. So you're going to need to create an account, so you'll click register, and this will send you an email. It'll give you your name and so forth. Now this isn't a broker account. You don't have to give them your social security number and all that stuff, and this is separate and different from your broker account. This is a TD Ameritrade API developer account. You need to give them just a little bit of information, email address, your name, phone number, set it up, and you should be good to go. I already have that done, so I'm going to go ahead and log in. Don't look at my email address. Logging in. Okay, here we go. Now I can see here that we have all kinds of APIs and guides and apps and so forth. So let's just take a look at the APIs. You can do things like authentication, you can look up the movers, you can check out price history, which is basically just a graph, historical graphs. You can get price quotes and all kinds of stuff. But the one that I care about is option chains. You don't really care about the details of this, but there's a function call called option chains, and you pass it this list of parameters, and you hit send, and you get some results back. The software, the PHP software that you're installing on your machine, is making this call to get option chains. It gets these results and it displays them to you in a way that you can use. So this is the interface that you're using. So let's go ahead and go to My Apps, which is very important here. You need to click this button that says Add New App. You can give it any name you want to. I'm going to call it Screener. There we go. The purpose of your app, I'm going to say Personal Use Screener. Doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter what you say here. And your callback API. This one does matter. It's really important that you get the exact right thing for this. It is https : you know what, let me zoom in for you. It is https : // 127.0.0.1 8080 / callback.php. Make sure that you have that exactly like it is. I can't emphasize enough. If you don't get that right, nothing works. It's a big deal. Anyway, so I'm going to hit create an app, and here we go. It creates the app. It's working. I can see that it's working, and it's done. Look at that. You now have an API. Now I'm going to click on it, and I can see that I have keys and products and everything else. And the big thing that you need to take away from this is right here, this consumer key. Now, if you recall, we copied and pasted these files over, and in that folder underneath your C / scanner is a file called consumerkey.ini. I'm going to double click on that. You got a bunch of X's in there, and I'm going to copy and paste in my new consumer key. Move that out of the way. Let's see, here we go, and you can see that this file, this consumer key and that consumer key are identical. I'm going to hit File, Save, and hit Close. Now you've created your API, you've created your web server, you've copied over your files to your web server, you created your API account, your developer account, you created your app, and you copied over your consumer key to the appropriate place. Okay, so now when we go to localhost and hit enter, you see two things. The first thing here is auth. So we can go, if you're already authorized, you only have to hit auth once. If you it's for authenticate. If you change your username and password or something like that, you'll have to do it again. But for now, you just have to hit it once. And I'd like you to just notice how many files are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, We can even delete the scanner. So we have 5 files. I'm going to hit auth, and it says click here to authenticate. I'm doing that, and it's asking me for my username and password, which I've typed in, and I'm going to hit login. If you have two-factor authentication turned on, it might send you a text message at this point where you have to enter in a code. I've already authenticated this computer, so it didn't ask me for the code. I hit allow, and I see something right here that says success. Click here to go to the scanner. It might say something else. It might say you had an error or something like that. It might say something went wrong. But if you did all of the steps as we went along, you should see success. Click here to go to the scanner. So we're going to click here and go to the scanner. And here it is. It's ready to go. I'll change just a couple things just so we get some results. I want to make sure that there's something that'll show up. Sometimes when the criteria is too tight, nothing shows up. But anyway, I'll hit submit. I can see it thinking about it, and here are all the iron condors that the software has picked out for me. If I say show best only and hit submit again, it'll show me just the best one. And I don't want to get into all those details. That's a different video on how to use the credit spread scanner. This was on how to install it. We saw step by step everything you need to know to get it done. Okay, good luck.